So today's episode is on a rather recent Hollywood case in regards to the very well-established publicist Ronnie Chasen. And this case is only a couple of years old, actually, but I found it very interesting. The Hollywood Reporter put out an interview not too long ago, and I'll be reading the report that they had. It's kind of long, so I'll be skipping around a little bit, but there is a GoFundMe type project that I became aware of. That's how I became interested in the case again, because I remember it from a few years ago as something that had come on the news, and it sounded a little suspicious at the time, the way that they closed the case and all of the various little facts, and we'll go over that information. But the GoFundMe thing had come onto my Facebook feed, and so I had kind of forgotten about the case completely, but many of her friends and family feel that it was inappropriately closed and that they got the wrong suspect, and that the case was not investigated properly, and so this filmmaker is trying to make a movie about it, and that's, where I saw the video and so forth. So I'm not sure how far along that project is right now. He's in the process of also suing the Beverly Hills Police Department because they have not released her autopsy and certain ballistics information, as well as video footage that would prove or disprove that the suspect that they think committed the crime was actually even in the area, because there is plenty of camera footage in the zone where he was supposed to be, where she was supposed to be. However, they've not released any of that videotape, which makes everybody very suspicious in terms of what's actually going on. So we're going to start at this point in the article. This is actually halfway through. For some reason, they put her bio halfway down, and then we're going to go up and read about the case. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background as to who she was and how she was established within the Hollywood community. So her name is Ronnie Chasen. Chasen was born in Kingston, New York in 1946 as Veronica Cohen. She supposedly took her last name as a nod to shuttered Hollywood hotspot Chasen's. She was raised in the Riverdale neighborhood of the Bronx and the Washington Heights section of Manhattan before moving to LA in the 1970s, initially to pursue acting, having already appeared on Guiding Light and The Patty Duke Show. The petite blonde with the perpetual blowout found her way into PR, working at Rogers & Cohen. Producer Alan Carr was a client, and then briefly as the head of publicity at MGM UA. She knew everyone, and everyone knew her, says publicist Vivian Mayer, who worked for Chasen at MGM UA. She had that rare encyclopedic knowledge of the industry. She could hold a whole equation in her head. So here is a young Ronnie Chasen, and I'm not sure if this is one of her headshots or, just a publicity photo, but so, she was a soap actress initially, but then became involved. Oh, it does say this is her headshot. Yeah, okay, usually headshots are black and white, so that's why I was wondering. Okay. Clients at her boutique firm, Chasen & Co., included a mix of producers, Deline, directors, Jim Sheridan, and the previously anonymous Niche. She pioneered into public renown composers Hans Zimmer and songwriters Warren, who dedicated the Golden Globe she won the following January, You Haven't Seen the Last of Me, to Chasen from the stage. The firm began specializing in handling Oscar campaigns for studios. When she died, clients had netted at least 150 nominations, and 7 had won Best Picture, including a three-peat between 2008 and 2010. No Country for Old followers. As Hollywood PR has evolved into an amorphous field of communication strategy, its habitat centrally digital, Chasen was a throwback, still seeing herself as a press agent, sticking post-it notes everywhere, dictating her emails, preferring her research stacks sent to reporters via postal mail, leaving multiple to-do voicemails late into each night on the office line. So here she is with, let's see, this is director Danny Boyle and Chasen attend the Fox Searchlight Oscar party in 2009 after Slumdog Millionaire, which Chasen repped, had won for Best Picture. So, she was a premier publicist. I mean, very heavily sought after, especially when she had all of those wins. It was like a back-to-back set of wins, just highly sought after because of her, the campaigns that she was putting together. So this was a very big person, even though publicly people probably didn't know her. She didn't have movie star status, but behind the scenes, she definitely did. She was old school in many ways. Someone asked me in a meeting with Ronnie how long we'd known each other, says New York-based publicist Kathleen Berlin. I said 35 years. She pipes up 20. She was very private about her age. She thought it could affect her work, that people wouldn't hire you. Chasen was known in the industry, and particularly by awards voters and journalists, for her relentless speaking, rapid-fire delivery, forever blunt. She was unapologetically pushy, whether over the phone or buttonholing on red carpets in her trademark cream-colored Armani suits. I used to laugh because I'd say she got half her pieces placed because people would say enough already, okay, says Berlin. She had chutzpah. So here she is with Bono. Indeed, Chasen never was afraid to speak her mind, no matter what the topic. Her friend and one-time client, Candy Clark from American Graffiti, recalls how she approached Spago designer Barbara Lazaroff not too long before she died to tell her the iconic Beverly Hills restaurant needed an update, particularly the private room frequently booked for events. She said it's tired looking, so nervy. Barbara, as it happened, was actually pretty agreeable. Wolfgang Puck closed Spago for a revamp 2 years after Chasen's death. Her brassiness knew few bounds, but intimates insist even its excesses bore hidden depths of humanity. For instance, she acquired a reputation for requesting doggy bags at fancy Hollywood events. People would call her chintzy or silly, but she was misunderstood, says Mayer. She wasn't eating it. She was bringing it to her mother, who lived up the street and whom she would visit at the end of the night to tell her about what happened. She wanted her mother to experience the evening with her. Chasen's mother died in 2000. And here she is with John Travolta, whom she worked with following his success. Welcome Back to Carter. So if any of you guys remember that, he was on a TV show, and then he had this bombastic kind of leap into Hollywood films, which is relatively difficult for any TV actor to do even in this day, but it had a lot to do with the publicity campaign behind him, and at some point I think he probably wasn't being represented by Chasen, and then there was an entire decade where, he was just doing these small films and nobody knew what had happened to him. So Chasen was really a big deal. Other than a brief marriage in her 20s, Chasen was single and had no children. She did maintain an inner circle of nearly a dozen dear friends, mostly women close in age, many of whom she had worked with over the years. Chasen also dated a series of high-powered paramours, including composer John Williams and an East Coast publishing executive. She dated a lot of interesting men, but she never wanted to close the deal, says Zanuck. And then, at a certain age, you don't want the responsibility. While Jewish and a regular at producer Erwin Winkler's past She liked to throw Christmas parties at her high-rise unit in a dorm building along Wilshire Boulevard's condo corridor between Century and Westwood. Century City and Westwood, that was filled with all white furniture, fine art prints, and flowering trees. She didn't like cut flowers, preferring blooms that lived to those that died. Chasen's estate was worth $6.1 million at the time of her death, nearly all of it after taxes and legal fees, excluding gifts to a charity like the American Film Institute, Paul Newman's Hole in the Wall Gang, and the Radnor Hereditary Cancer Program, went to her favorite niece, Melissa Cohen. She's the daughter of Chasen's older brother, Larry Cohen, who is 75 and a writer-director of low-budget genre movies. He wrote 2002's Phone Booth, in which Colin Farrell plays an obnoxious publicist targeted by a deranged shooter. Another Cohen daughter was, in the words of the will, intentionally and with full knowledge of the consequences, only given $10. So she had two nieces, gave the bulk of a $6 million, treasury to that one niece and only $10 to the other niece, and there's a reason for it. I think they'll mention it a little later on, but it's part of the conspiracies that have sort of circulated, like, what was there some big family secret going on with Cohen, that there was this feud or something. Was that a possible cause? But it really wasn't. I'll talk about that in a second. So here she is with Morgan Freeman. The two became friends when they worked on the awards campaign for Driving Miss Daisy, which yielded an Oscar for the film. Okay, so the will, written in 1994, requested that Williams write a piece of music for her funeral, if possible. It didn't transpire. While publicity giant Warren Cowan, with whom she at one time had carried a semi-open affair, write the release to the trades and that no mention be made of my age. Cohen died 2 years before she did, so that also didn't happen. Chasen was buried at Hillside Memorial Park, a Jewish cemetery in Culver City. It was filled with such Hollywood heavyweights as Lou Wasserman, Al Jolson, Aaron Spelling, and Milton Berle. The standing room only service was attended by upwards of 1,000 people, including then Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal and astronaut Buzz Aldrin. In his speech, Cohen, who declined to speak with The Hollywood Reporter, reminisced about the siblings' New York childhood when Chasen was the girls' Duncan Yo-Yo campaign of Morningside Heights, and Mayer recalled a recent dream in which her mentor appeared to her very upset, pissed as hell, declaring, "Now you get me a free Armani outfit." Chasen had been looking forward to the summer of 2011. She had had hip replacement surgery that she had anxiously delayed for years. Multiple calls with former Univision head Jerry Berenkio about the specialist he had used convinced her to move ahead with it, and secured a Paris apartment on the left bank for 2 months, so friends would join her in succession a few weeks at a time, says Berlin. I just remember thinking when she told me what a good time that she'll have. Okay, so now we're going to go to the top where we talk about the actual crime that was perpetrated, but just, based on this, I mean, this was a major Hollywood player, and she was heavily sought after. What people don't realize is that a lot of people in the publicity game here, you see her with an Oscar, she was helping to produce films as well, and this is where another one of the conspiracy theories comes in about what happened to her. And it's an interesting theory, and I think it has the one with the most weight in it, because she was involved with helping to obtain financing for certain films, and I think that's where something might have gone awry. but let's see what the beginning of this article says. So, what really happened the night Hollywood power publicist Ronnie Chasen was killed? Okay, so they give a little synopsis here. 6 years ago, Hollywood learned that Ronnie Chasen, one of its grand dame film publicists, had been gunned down while driving along a leafy stretch of Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills just after midnight on November 16th, 2010. She had been heading home from the after party at the W Hotel for the premiere of Burlesque. Jason represented producer Donald D. Line and lighting director Peggy Eisenhower, as well as songwriter Diane Warren, whose tune "You Haven't Seen the Last of Me" was sung in the film by Cher. Me and Ronnie were so excited, Warren told THR days later. It was just the funnest night. Adding to Line, she was being her usual mother hen self. It was so not anything out of the ordinary. Just like 100 other nights, she was loving it. Hollywood Foreign Press Association member Elizabeth Serrata recalls Jason working the room. It was the crucial period before Golden Globe ballots were to be sent out at the beginning of December. She'd corner you and not let you get away. She says Ronnie would say, "Don't you just love my client?" 6 years later, what really happened? So that is a picture of her car, but let's see. So exactly what happened after Jason, then 64, left the W Valet for home in her black 2010 Mercedes-Benz E350 remains unknown. This much is clear. At about 12:28 a.m., 4 shots were fired through the vehicle's front passenger window as it likely slowed or stopped in the left-hand turn lane heading west on Sunset to make the turn south onto Whittier Drive, a residential street where homes cost as much as $25 million. According to the autopsy report, 2 bullets hit her chest without causing immediate catastrophic damage. Another hit her upper right arm. A 4th, the most rapidly fatal, entered through her right shoulder and struck her heart. No shell casings, live rounds, or weapon were recovered at the intersection. Despite her dire injuries, Jason glided 1/4 of a mile down, curving Whittier Drive before the Mercedes knocked over a concrete light pole, crushing the front right end of the vehicle and deploying the driver's side airbag. A couple driving past found her within minutes, followed by Beverly Hills Police Department patrol officers who had been alerted to the sound of gunfire by neighbors. Police files indicate officers found Jason slumped forward with blood dripping from her nose, a gurgling sound emanating from her mouth, eyes wide open but not blinking. They were unable to locate her pulse. She was transported to nearby Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and pronounced dead at 1:12 a.m. In the following days, nobody knew who had done it or why it happened. Rumors spread of dark links to gambling debts, art deals, and shady film finance. Even former LAPD Chief William Bratton, then working in private security, got into the guessing game, speculating everything from road rage to a random drive-by. A crime of passion, somebody who knew her, he told CBS News. They have not determined, to the best of my knowledge, as to whether there was possibly somebody else in the car. So this is the suspect that they ended up blaming. His name is Harold Smith. This photo, I guess, was from an earlier earlier booking. Crime scene photos released by the Beverly Hills Police Department show that Jason's shoes, satin leopard print kitten heel, Manolo Blahnik pumps remained by the gas pedal. Her Prada purse sat on the passenger receipt amid glass shards and nail polish bottles. Paperwork on the floor indicated more hustling to be done for the ongoing award season, pursuing coverage with NPR's Morning Edition, and All Things Considered for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross composer contributions to the social network. I don't think any of us know what happened, says producer Lily Finney-Zanuck, a longtime friend. That she was in pain in her final moments is more than I can handle. It breaks my heart. 8 months after the shocking shooting, the Beverly Hills Police Department announced it had closed the case, insisting that impoverished ex-convict Harold Smith, who fatally shot himself when confronted at his Hollywood flophouse 2 weeks after the incident, had acted alone in a robbery attempt gone wrong. Yet everyone in town wondered immediately, was this the full truth? Now, years later, previously unreleased pieces of the Beverly Hills Police Department Chasen's murder investigation file have been reviewed. An examination of this material and other evidence by the Hollywood Reporter raises questions about the department's core findings. This report appears to leave in doubt whether the department, which never was required to present evidence to a prosecutor, much less a mass proof to demonstrate it had fingered the right culprit beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, knows how the murder was committed and whether multiple individuals were potentially involved. Despite the Beverly Hills Police Department's assurances justice may not have been attained, no known evidence places Smith at the scene or backs up a robbery motive or confirms that he didn't have assistance. Ballistics don't prove he shot her. The department has publicly offered only that this African-American man with a prior record of robbery in the area was known to be in financial straits before he raised the suspicions of an America's Most Wanted tipster, and who, called in and basically led the police to this particular individual. Well, the Beverly Hills Police Department leadership has changed since 2010. Its blue wall of silence persists. Faced with questions for this report, the department would not address its effort to pursue Chasen's killer or how it closed the case on Smith, a man who their detectives were unable to apprehend before he committed suicide in front of them. It's just one more mystery, as no information about the handling of that event has been released either. The Beverly Hills Police Department has few chances to practice its homicide investigation skills, as murders rarely occur in this jurisdiction. There have been none since 2011, and 5 in the half-decade before Chasen's death. All were solved. 2 were straightforward spousal in-home killings, except for the 2008 shooting of actor Mark Ruffalo's brother Scott, a local hairdresser. Doing investigative work on homicides takes a lot of skill and experience, says Phyllis B. Gerstenfeld, Chair of Criminal Justice at California State University, Stanislaus. A lot of smaller towns know they're inexperienced and ask jurisdictions for help, but some don't. On December 8th, 2010, the Beverly Hills Police Department held a news conference in front of its headquarters. Chief David Snowden announced the department had that day received a preliminary ballistics result from the LA Sheriff's County Department Firearms Section Crime Lab, indicating a match between Smith's weapon and the one used in Chasen's killing. He noted that a complete match was expected within 2 weeks, and that while the investigation was still ongoing, we believed that Mr. Smith acted alone. Moments later, the detective in charge, Michael Publicker, would describe the inquiry as 60 to 70% complete. This confident position was taken at the media gathering 3 weeks after Chasen's murder, even though case documents indicate that the department had yet to review her bank statements, hard drive, and cell phone records. The Beverly Hills Police Department would not seek such potentially relevant evidence until the Shed insisted that the effort to solve the case was nearly closed, and this was only, I guess, just 2 weeks or 3 weeks after Chasen had been killed. The assembled reporters expressed skepticism that Smith, an ex-convict with a record of robbery, whose mode of transport was known to be a bicycle, could have acted alone, and peppered the chief and detectives with an onslaught of questions about motive and method. Through the interviews and the information we received, it leaves us to believe that Smith was at a desperate point in his life and was reaching out and doing desperate measures, explained Publicar, adding, "We do not believe he was paid as a hitman." Soon Snowden had had enough. "We've answered all of your questions as we can," he said. "The purpose of this was to tell you it was a match." Again, the firearm that was used to commit suicide in Harold Martin Smith was the same firearm that was used to kill Ronnie Chasen. The BHPD was more definitive in a news release issued the following July, indicating it had completed the exhaustive investigation, and without a doubt it is the conclusion of robbery-homicide detectives that the sole perpetrator of this most heinous crime was Harold Martin Smith. But the Hollywood Reporter's review of the newly available Beverly Hills Police Department case files may undermine such certainty. There is no definite ballistics match in the released files, only an inconclusive report that states the fired bullet jacket could have been fired from Smith's gun, as they exhibit similar general rifling characteristics and some agreement of individual characters, but are insufficient for an identification. It goes on to observe that while the fired bullet core is consistent with a .38 Special 357 Magnum caliber ammunition, it offered no comparison value. In plain English, forensically, there is no value there. There wasn't enough to say it came from the same source as Mark Zonger, a former FBI agent and forensic examiner contacted by the Hollywood Reporter. Multiple experts who were shown the report came to similar conclusions. The Hollywood Reporter's study of the materials offers other windows into the handling of the investigation, including the fact that there's no record in the released files that her car was dusted for fingerprints on its passenger side, the direction from which the shots came. So this is 2 weeks after the murder. The victim, the person that they're claiming was a suspect here, Harold, killed himself apparently right in front of police officers. That's even kind of questionable because apparently he did this in a lobby, and there were cameras there, but they haven't released even the footage of that, to anybody requesting it. So people are even suspicious about that, if it's a full lobby of people, and for this event to occur, somebody to just shoot themselves right in front of everybody, but they don't even have any witness reports claiming that that's what happened. So there's a lot of questions about this case. The Beverly Hills Police Department and its current chief, Sandra Spagnoli, who started in March and was the subject of gauzy Vogue profile in August, declined to respond to nearly 24 questions regarding the department's work on the case. These included whether Snowden may have misinformed the public about the ballistics findings, and whether the department collected video footage that might establish Smith's presence in the vicinity on the night of the murder, and why several of Chasen's friends and associates, some of whom were with her that night, never were interviewed by police. Lieutenant Lincoln Hoshino, a Beverly Hills Police Department spokesman, reiterates, "We believe this is a closed case. We have no plans to ever reopen it." He also sought to distance Spagnoli from continued Chasen-related scrutiny. "She wasn't here at the time," he says. "She doesn't know anything about the case." Criminology experts consider Chasen's director of the Forensic Science graduate program at UC Davis. Why would you only do a portion of it? The Beverly Hills Police Department declined to answer any questions about fingerprinting or other evidence collection. So this is just showing her final drive. Chasen was shot at the corner of Sunset and Whittier, and then her car, she was somehow either in semi-control of the car, because I think it was a left turn off that she made, but then it ended up hitting a pole. This was not a very well investigated homicide, and it's easiest to point a finger at the most vulnerable people in town, says Merle Stebbins, a California-based Police Science Institute instructor and former police investigator who specializes in crime scene processing and has 45 years of homicide experience. After closely examining the case documents, he raised substantive questions about whether the Beverly Hills Police Department had been sloppy in the way it collected and managed evidence. This is effing homicide, guys. This isn't a little shoplifting. This has to have all of your undivided attention. T.T. Williams Jr., a retired LAPD homicide detective often called to testify about police procedure, questioned the apparent absence of video footage memorializing Smith near the crime. There has to be some security cameras in that neighborhood that would have caught him, he says. I mean, it's Beverly Hills. Give me a break. You have a black man supposedly on a bike in the middle of the night. He'd be stopped 15 times. He would have stood out like a sore thumb. So that I guess is from the driver's side. I see her shoes are still there, and the glass. Yeah. Independent documentation. Ryan Katzenbach, who's 41, knew nothing of Chasen when she was alive. So the rest of this now goes into this particular independent filmmaker. That's the person who's doing the GoFundMe campaign to, investigate this particular case. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but basically he was not able to get a certain amount of information, so he did a routine Public Records Act request related to the case, including for Chasen's autopsy, which he had been on a special indefinite hold when the Beverly Hills Police Department declined to turn anything over. That's when he decided to make this documentary, and like I said, he's currently suing them. And let's see if there was anything else. I don't think so. In this was mostly about his situation, whatever he's been going through trying to make this movie. It's been very difficult for him to put it together, which in a way is kind of strange too, because she knew so many people within the industry. You would think that her friends alone would be able to fund this particular project, but they're strangely not doing that. Okay, so anyway, the main theories in regards to what possibly could have had been, what happened in this particular case was, one, that Chasen was paying off some kind of gambling debts for her brother, that 75-year-old filmmaker. And like I said, the police department did not look at her bank records at the time. That was clearly not a particular concern for them. They were trying to close the case on this particular suspect, and they never looked into that properly. He has come out and openly denied that there was any kind of gambling situation that she was paying off, and in truth, her estate was not reduced by any large amounts. Even if she may have paid something off, it was not any kind of a ridiculous amount, and nobody has any proof that anything like that happened. So this gambling thing didn't really go anywhere as far as the theory. The second theory had to do with her family situation, again in regards to her two nieces, the two daughters of that brother of hers. the situation where the majority of her savings, $6 million or so, some amount of that nature, went to one niece and only $10 went to the other. So then people were saying, well, maybe there's some big family secret. The family secret, it was not so much of a secret. It was well known because she was complaining about it. Chasen had a lot of affection for her mother, who in her last days was at the hospital passing away, and she expected her nieces to go and visit her grandmother. So the one niece that got the bulk of the money went every, I think, 2 times a week to go and see her grandmother, which, was uplifting for her and made her happy, and that was important to Chasen. But the other niece did not go, and Chasen repeatedly would call her and ask her to please go and see your grandmother. She's passing away, etc. It's important, please go and see her. And she said she was literally begging her on a weekly or maybe daily basis to go and see her, but she refused and did not see her. Maybe she made excuses. I'm not really sure the internal issues, if there was some kind of conflict, or she just didn't want to get involved. Some people are uncomfortable in those situations, but she did not want to make any adjustments to and go and see her grandmother, and that was particularly angering to Ronnie Chasen. And right then and there, she changed her will. Probably both nieces, the money would have been divided equally, but right then and there, she changed her will to only give this niece $10 as kind of an explanation of how she felt, how angry she was at her for how she had mistreated her grandmother by not visiting her in her final days. So that's not like a huge family secret, and that's not going to cause a situation like this to happen. Okay, so that's the second theory. That's been eliminated. Now the third one is much more interesting, and there are some clues that kind of point to that. The third theory has a little bit more weight. So, Ronnie Chasen was in the middle of film production. I don't know if she was a producer on Burlesque, but that was the film that was premiering that night that she was, doing the event for. So she was involved with the financing of that film and a couple of other ones that were in the process. They were going through the kind of initial Oscar, publicity campaign pre-Golden Globes. So it was like a big deal. Now, what had happened was Burlesque at some point lost a lot of money. They were supposed to be funded by someone, but some of the funding did not come through. And according to some of the insiders that knew her, the person that was supposed to help finance the project was apparently someone from Russia, and these sort of foreign investors are very commonly involved with film production. A lot of people don't know this, but there are a lot of foreign financiers of Hollywood films, and Ronnie Chasen was fully involved with this process. So what had been done was, in lieu of giving direct money, I think it was something like $20 million that was due, they gave her a painting to hold that was apparently worth upwards of $25 million, and she was supposed to hold this painting until they were, going to help complete the financing of this project. Well, Burlesque never received the money that it needed to in time. It had completed production, and you can actually see this if you watch that movie. It's one of the most panned films stuck in. So you can kind of see this in the film Burlesque, that it lost funding at some point during its production, and all of the actors are sort of relegated to one location, and it is there's something happened with the funding that you can sort of see it in the movie. It's like a heavily panned movie because possibly because it just seemed to go nowhere at some point, and it might have been because of the money, I don't know. But something clearly happened. Anyway, Ronnie Chasen kept the painting that, because she didn't get the money, she kept the painting. Now, Ronnie Chasen's apartment was robbed 1 week before this event. Now, this is a secure building. This is not only her apartment's worth $6 million. This is not a place that you can easily break into. And the likelihood of someone's apartment getting robbed and then the next week them getting killed in this fashion, it is, it cannot be a coincidence. This is a related situation. So I think what happened is whoever had given her the painting to hold wanted it back. The money had not gone through, but they did not want her to keep this extremely expensive painting, and they must have assumed that, or thought maybe she had it at her apartment, was maybe hanging somewhere, and that's why they broke in. There is no way that it was this Harold guy, Harold Smith, showing up at that level of a secure apartment trying to break in. He had nothing to do with that, and I just don't think that a robbery and then this situation would have occurred in that proximity of time when a situation like this was going on in the background. How was the break-in perpetrated? It was unclear. Was it somebody that she knew? It has to have been a person that was able to easily slip into a secure building. They might have known someone else in the apartment, or just, sometimes you can walk in behind people as long as you look like an appropriate person. Sometimes you're able to get through. I don't know what level of security was in the lobby, but her apartment was broken into. Now, it was not robbed. That is the other weird thing. It was broken into, but she had jewelry there. The jewelry was worth a couple of $100,000 that she had in the apartment. She had equipment in the apartment, TVs, everything. Nothing was taken. So it was broken into. They were looking for something, obviously, but nothing was taken. So this is now very suspicious. It was not a normal robbery situation. And then, in addition to that, you have this final situation that she goes to the burlesque premiere and then comes out as she's driving home into a residential area. Somebody shoots her, and again does not rob her. She had money in her purse. She had a couple of $100 in her purse. She had there was stuff in her car that could have easily been robbed too. This was not a normal situation that somebody is trying to rob them the way that the police department was claiming. This Harold Smith was, low on funds and then decided to go crazy, and he just rides his bicycle up to a sedan that is only in an intersection. So it is not even a situation that she's parked anywhere. She easily, look, if somebody shows up in a bicycle and then gets off and then is pointing a gun, she would have bolted. She would have driven. People on bikes who are trying to commit robberies don't do things like that. They might stop somebody who is a pedestrian who's walking, but they're not going to stop somebody in a sedan that is already in drive. No one is going to stand still for that. And this was, when you look at the shots, they were all within a kill zone, meaning they were all within a very small bracket of space. So this was done by an expert marksman. Harold Smith was not an expert marksman. For him to do shots like that, jumping off his bicycle, and for no reason, and after the first shots, Ronnie Chasen would have bolted. I don't even think she would have waited for the first shot. At the point when a guy is jumping off his bicycle, you're gonna run. And there was nobody in the intersections, as far as it wasn't like a busy night or anything like that. So it's just not possible. This concept of a guy showing up on a bike, trying to rob somebody shooting them with such precision and then not even robbing them, and that he's coming up on a bicycle in the middle of Beverly Hills. I mean, it's just, that's why everyone just doesn't believe this is even a possibility. It doesn't even make sense, and people were questioning it at that time. Now, the other part of this is the area that she was shot was a residential area. There are apartment buildings right around there that look down, so people could see, down to what I think was 5 witnesses who were not included in the police report for some reason. The 5 witnesses said that they have pretty similar corroborating stories. They said that they heard 5 shots, 4 to 5 shots, so pop, 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 whatever the shots were, and that they went out to, see what was going on, and they saw a sedan drive past her particular car. So they did not see a bicycle. None of them said they saw a bicycle. They saw a sedan. Now that makes much more sense. If somebody's going to do a shooting and they're going to shoot somebody in their car, they would also probably be in a car. They're not going to walk up. They're not going to come on a bicycle. They'll be in a sedan. You would be in a similar type vehicle or something that, you could get to the person that you're trying to get to. And this was an expert marksman. I don't think this was a random shooting by any means. Now, the 5th witness was much more, I think, an important witness in terms of the information that he gave. He was actually on his balcony smoking, or whatever. His wife had told him not to smoke in his apartment, so he was outside. He's on the balcony, and he said that, he's sitting there thinking or doing whatever, and he saw a flash in the sky. So it was very bright, and he looked up looking like, is there lightning? Like, where did that come from? And then he said he heard the flash, the popping. So then he looked around to see what was going on, and he saw the same thing as the other witnesses said, that a sedan pulled away from this second car, which turned out to be hers. So this is, I think, much more significant. This flash thing is something that was also seen when Diana was murdered, that there was a huge flash seen just before. The flash is a debilitating, it's a very specific flash bulb that is used in Russia. It was used in the Milosevic attempted killing, and it was used apparently in Diana's killing, and I think it might have been used in Chasen's killing as well. What it does is it debilitates the driver so that they are stunned for at least 3 minutes, and then you can do the shots that you were, whatever you were planning to do, because these shots were not done with a moving vehicle. Again, more than likely, the first shot would have caused her to bolt. Her foot's already on the ignition. If the the window breaks, she's probably gonna drive away. I mean, initially she might be shocked, but for them to get all of those shots right in the same zone, that means she was staying stable, relatively stable. She wasn't driving away. They weren't driving with her. So I think she was stunned initially, and like they said in the police report, her eyes were shot wide open. They might not have looked at her pupils, but I think she was shocked first, so that she was stabilized in that way, and then she was shot, and then the sedan pulled away, and the rest of it might have just been a reflex that she was, pressed the gas and glided into that pole that was like a fourth of a mile into the exit. But I think that that's probably what happened, because I just found that very significant that the guy said he saw what he thought was, because the sky lit up. It's that bright that he thought, like, is there lightning? But there was no sound. There was not, like, a sound of lightning. And then he looked down after the pop-up business had occurred. So I think that's very significant. Why the heck wasn't that included in this testimony? Again, he never saw anybody on a bike rolling away. So this is a very, strange kind of a case. I do think this was a hit. I think that they were looking for the painting. I think that she had not put it in her apartment, obviously, otherwise she would have reported it missing. She probably had it in storage. If it's worth $20 to $25 million, she's not going to maybe keep it in her apartment. She kept it somewhere else. She might have kept it at a gallery, who knows. They didn't have it. She wasn't giving in. And, she was a tough cookie, so she maybe thought she could deal with these guys, but they weren't having it. And on the night of the premiere, I think somebody was sent to shoot her. I really think something like that happened to Ronnie Chasen. I really don't think the Harold Smith character was involved with this. So now, how did he get involved, though, in terms of the police department pinpointing him? So they had a tipster call in who was his neighbor, lived 4 houses down apartments down in the same complex that they were living in. He's like a musician, out-of-work musician in Los Angeles. And Harold said needed to leave a couple of boxes at his apartment. Okay, fine. So this is what his claim is, that he left some boxes at his apartment. And on the night of the murder, Harold came back, very confused, and said something to the effect of, is there anything on the news? And then the guy said no, but Harold did not specify what he was looking for. What do you mean, is anything on the news? And then he said, we did not have this conversation. And even though there was no conversation, he just asked this bizarre question with no particular point to it. And then after that, he comes back 2 days later or something and says, I need $1. And the guy says, for what? He said, I have to go pick up my bicycle. It's in Beverly Hills. He needed $1 to go get, apparently his bicycle was in Beverly Hills. Okay, so based on just those 2 pieces of information, this guy found the situation very suspicious, and called into the LAPD, not the LAPD, the Beverly Hills Police Department, left this tip, and this is how Harold Smith got involved with it. Now, what is Harold Smith's past experience? He was in jail for 11 years for an attempted robbery, using his bicycle, and what he did was he did not roll up to somebody in a sedan. He did not shoot anybody. He drove up to somebody who was standing, a pedestrian, at her mailbox and asked for whatever money she had, and that was the end of that. But that was the case that was put against him. He was in for 11 years, so he was now out, and he never wanted to go back to jail. That was something that he always said, he never wants to go back. And it was, an issue for him, that was a very traumatic experience. But this guy did not have a history of doing anything of this nature. And he definitely had not shot anybody before. So, and in this case, he had not robbed anybody. Now, it is weird if the tipster is correct, that he's saying that Harold Smith said his bike is in Beverly Hills. Why would his bike be in Beverly Hills? Now, let's say Harold Smith decided to rob somebody, as they're driving through an intersection. He rolls up on a bicycle, and pulls out a gun and says, give me all your money or whatever. Her windows are even up. If the second she sees something like that, she's gonna bolt. But okay, let's say she doesn't. And she's frozen there for 5 minutes, and then he starts shooting, but then doesn't rob her at all. And then what? He leaves the bike there and runs. There was no bike found at the scene. Okay, so let's say he rides his bike a little bit of a distance, but then decides somebody might have seen him, so he decides to leave his bike someplace, and he walks or takes the bus the rest of the way, and then 2 days later he decides to pick up the bike from wherever he had stashed it. Okay, fine. Let's say that even something of that nature had occurred. The thing is, there is no video footage. There are cameras all over that place. There's no video footage showing him rolling up in a bike. There's no video footage of him in the area even that the police department is willing to show that he was even there. So something is very suspicious. Either the tipster is lying, or there is no tipster and this is a fake tipster, and this is actually a situation where the police department wanted to close the case. They found a robber who had just enough of a history that they could claim he was in a similar situation, and decided to use him as the scapegoat for this particular crime because they wanted to close the case. This is a very well-funded police department. This is a very high-profile area, so they don't want their residents to be feeling like there is some kind of danger of a situation like this, that people can just get killed. So they wanted to close the case as quickly as possible. So it's possible that the focus went on Harold Smith, not necessarily through a tipster. That might have been a totally fake story, but rather, that they wanted to pinpoint an individual who had a similar enough past that they could pinpoint it. Now, the question comes, they never got to question this guy. Why? Because when they show up at the place where he was staying, he wasn't actually even in that apartment building. He was just in the lobby somewhere. They show up and he pulls out this gun and shoots himself right in front of everybody. But again, there are cameras in this lobby. Nope, they have no footage of this that they're willing to show that how this particular thing was even done. Now, the next part of this is even more bizarre. The gun that he had was a stolen gun from a former police officer. That's the part that I just can't even believe. It wasn't a gun that was previously owned by a police officer that had been reported stolen like 3 years earlier. Did Harold Smith randomly go into a police officer's house and take a gun, and then that's the gun that he decides to shoot Ronnie Chasen with and himself? First of all, like I said, the ballistics in the article, when they reviewed them, actually did not match. If they were similar, they didn't match because there was not 100% match. They were from similar guns, but just the fact that this gun was a stolen gun from a police officer is just mind-boggling. It's the likelihood of a situation like that happening. I just find this so freaking unbelievable. And I just think something much more dire occurred in this particular hotel lobby. Even if he did not want to go back to jail, I just think nobody wanted him talking about anything, and they wanted this case closed. The second part of this is the second they go to investigate his stuff, the first box that they open, they say, oh, here are the 5 the shell casings, of the Chasen murder. And the very first thing you open, you find the shell casings. Again, all of this is so ridiculous. It's like, the situation with the passports just wafting down when everything else is burnt to nothingness. 2 pristine passports are found. In all of these various situations, just it makes no sense whatsoever. So I don't really think that when you look at how many coincidences there are, I just don't think that Harold Smith was involved with this particular crime. I think he could have been framed. I don't know how far back the framing could have gone. I think it's even possible that the shooter may have been a cop. It's very possible that whoever was involved with this Chasen situation was a professional shooter, and let's say that it was a cop or somebody who had access to police department information so that they knew who to pinpoint afterwards. Because, for them to just randomly find this guy, or for even this tipster, to have this really bizarre story, I don't know, there are too many weird things. And then the gun being a former officer's gun, I don't know, so much of this doesn't make any sense. And sense to his doing this, and even the methodology that he would have used doesn't make any sense. He did not have any drugs in his system, so it's, I can understand somebody on drugs might have decided that they're going to roll up on a bicycle and, do something like this, but he didn't have any drugs in his system. He was not on drugs, alcohol, anything. And for him to, make a decision like that doesn't make any sense. And she wasn't robbed. Her apartment also wasn't robbed the week prior. Was he involved with that situation? No. So, I think Harold Smith was definitely framed. Now, I just don't know how far back he was framed. Was he framed to the extent that this was a planned situation, that somebody actually told him to go to Beverly Hills and be somewhere at a certain period of time? Did he possibly even witness this particular shooting from a distance, get scared, and, leave his bike in Beverly Hills? Nobody saw a bicycle leaving the scene, though. They saw a sedan leaving the scene. No, I don't know that he was in the sedan or anything like that. Why would that be the case? But was he framed to that degree that he was somewhat of a witness to this? Was somebody trying to frame him? Now, there was a case not too long ago, I think it came on Dateline, where an officer who was trying to, apparently had some problems with his wife, had called a former convict that he was either his parole officer or whatever, and he called that he first somehow sold this person a gun. The officer did, and then later on called him to the scene of the crime right after the crime had been committed. So again, now, could something of this nature have occurred, that just to kind of place the person in the right place at the right time? Was Harold Smith framed to this degree that he was called to Beverly Hills, saw something that freaked him out, and he knew that he was in for it, and there was no other way, and that's why he killed himself? And even the gun that he had was a police officer's gun. I don't know, but I just think that there's just too many weird things about this case. I don't think the guy that they're blaming for this was involved directly. He may have had an indirect involvement, and I think he may have been framed. Definitely in the end, something very weird happened with him. And the Ronnie Chasen thing does seem to be involved with the film financing, possibly of the movie Burlesque, because that, I think it might actually be directly involved with that, especially when her apartment had been not robbed, but broken into just 1 week prior to that, and she was not robbed. I think they were looking for something. I think they were looking for the painting in question, and I think that is the reason she was killed, because she wasn't giving it back, and it was worth a tremendous amount of money, and she was probably playing with people that were not in the business of playing, meaning that although they were trying to finance a film and trying to become upstanding citizens, so to speak, this might not have been clean money that was being used. This might have been mob money. These might have been gangsters. And a lot of Hollywood films are funded in these bizarre ways. She maybe thought that she could handle a situation like that because she deals with all of these people, or had in the past, but I think she might have been dealing with a group that was a little bit more intense than anything she was aware of, and she could not play hardball with this group the way that she was used to playing with other people. This was not a Hollywood event where she could just, be pushy the way that she was used to being. And I think her reluctance or refusal to give the painting, in lieu of not getting the money, was what actually caused her to be killed. And I think she was killed. I think this was 100% a hit by somebody who had enough access to information to get Harold Smith involved. So I don't know who did the hit. I don't know who called the hit, but it seems like there was some weirdness going on with the police department, as well as the fact that nobody's releasing video footage of the killing of Smith, or his whereabouts with all of the camera footage in the area. You know, there's too many things, and them not pursuing the eyewitnesses who saw a sedan leaving and all of these other things, and not releasing the official autopsy. There's just a lot of stuff going on that they never interviewed any of her friends or associates, and they never reviewed her information in an appropriate way, or any of her film dealings in an appropriate way that might lead to the actual, people who might be involved with this. They may not be able to prove that, and they might be very dangerous individuals, and they don't even want to get involved with it. But they felt they could shut the case down with the Harold Smith situation. The question is, how was Harold Smith brought into it? Was he brought in randomly? I don't think it could have been random. I think he was brought in purposefully, and I just don't know how far the planning of this had gone on. You know, how deep was this situation? For the gun to have been a former officer's gun, I just think this might be a much bigger conspiracy than people even realize, and it was not a ballistic match to the Ronnie Chasen killings either. It was just a similar gun, so I don't know. The whole thing is very suspicious, and like I said, they're holding on to evidence that would prove one way or the other various points about the case, and they're not showing it, and that's definitely questionable. At this point, it's 8 years afterwards. I don't think the movie has come out, and for some reason, nobody is producing that film, despite the fact that she was such a powerful player. They are not, trying to make this movie, which makes me think that, again, there's some very powerful people behind this situation. I think she was playing with something a little too big for what she was used to, and nobody wants to touch this case or a movie about it, because they don't know, where it might lead. Might be into a realm that nobody wants to touch, and I think is probably some sort of Russian mob gangsterism business that was going on. Not only that they are funding a lot of Hollywood movies, which apparently they are, but nobody wants to point fingers with such a dangerous group. So it's a sad story, and it's kind of a shocking story, is that stuff like this could happen, and that this random person can get blamed for something like that, and that poor guy had to lose his life just in this processing, just so that he was not questioned, and so that this case could be closed. He might have killed himself, I don't know, just because he knew that there was no way to get out of this situation. So I don't know how deep he was into the deal either, but I don't think he did it. I think he may have had some knowledge of what was going down, but I don't think he did it at all. I just don't think he had the prowess to do it, and I don't think he would have done something like this in this method that they're claiming, riding up on a bike, and that just, none of that makes any sense. Okay guys, so this was kind of a long video, and I will talk to you again next time. Have a great night. A little quick update though before we go. My schedule has changed kind of dramatically over the summer. I'm actually taking over shifts for a couple of other people, so I will not be able to do regular uploads. I was trying to upload every week, and kind of usually Sunday night I would record and then edit it and then release it at some point on Monday, but like I said, I wasn't able to do that yesterday or the day before. It was just, my schedule was out of whack, and so I wasn't able to pull that. And you can even see what time it is right now. I'm sitting in a parking lot trying to record this, just because I have to go to work right after this. So, it's seriously not even a possibility for me to do a regular upload on a weekly basis. I'll upload whenever I'm able to. So, I'll try to do it at least once every 10 days, but for people who are expectantly waiting, I know there are a couple of people who look forward to, a regular upload. I won't be able to do it during this particular time period, just because I'm covering all of these odd shifts, and, it's just not it's just not possible. So whenever I'm able to upload, I will. It will be kind of inconsistent